Hi, I'm Davy. I'm awesome. Welcome to Davy's Awesome Wrestling, where I review wrestling-related things, all from the perspective of a fan, not an insider. So this past week was AEW WrestleDream 2024, the second WrestleDream. This time from Tacoma, Washington. Last time it was Seattle. Let's get into it. The opening match, the returning Jay White versus Hangman Adam Page. Looking for a little revenge on Jay White's part. I mean, it was a good match. You could see the personal animosity going on, like, Hangman Page gouging Jay White's eyes. So a little tick for tat, he did it to Hangman Page. In the middle of the match, looked like Page had hurt his knee, and it came really up to fruition when he tried to do the buckshot lariat, but got caught by Jay White, who not only caught him, but reversed it into the switchblade, got the pin, and the win over Hangman Page, which honestly was not how I saw it going, but I'm happy about that. Jay White's back. I think that we should give him some wins. I'd love to see him again go after the title, and this time be a legit contender. Like I said, it was a good way to open the show. I wouldn't say it was great or fantastic, but it was good. Easily it got its 3 out of 5. Then for the Women's World Championship, Willow Nightingale challenging the Glamour Mariah May. Yeah, this match was good, but this one was a little bit more predictable. I mean, I'll give it this. Willow beat the crap out of Mariah May for most of the match. But I think we all knew that this wasn't going to be Willow's night. And that came to fruition when Willow Nightingale went for an avalanche powerbomb that got reversed into a Hurricane Rana, which then led to Mariah May getting Storm Zero, the pin, and the win, retaining her Women's World Championship. Like, I think we all knew this was going to go. Nothing against Willow Nightingale, she's a great wrestler, but she just got out of being the mid-card champion. She's not quite ready to be the world champion yet. But I stress yet. I see it coming eventually, but it also just wasn't a rivalry that had been built up enough. So I will say it was good, but the predictability made it to where I think the best this was going to get was a 3 out of 5. Then for the TNT Championship, the wrestler Katsuyori Shibata versus the scapegoat Jack Perry. Again, another good match, but in my opinion, not enough build-up. These two kind of have a rivalry, but it was more just Katsuyori eventually challenged him, and he said okay. And it also had a lackluster finish, as Shibata got Jack Perry into a sleeper hold, very strong one, and Jack Perry fell back, kind of cradled him, and got the pin. But most of the thrilling stuff about this match actually came after the match, as Jack Perry was attacking Katsuyori Shibata post-match, and out came Daniel Garcia, who didn't attack Jack Perry because Jack Perry backed off, but then that led to the return of MJF, who came out and distracted Daniel Garcia, who then got hit by Jack Perry, so that MJF could start beating on Daniel Garcia, which led to the return of Adam Cole, baby. Which I'm going to say is a little weird because the storytelling here, they're now kind of cheering on Adam Cole like he's the babyface hero, but he's the one who turned on MJF and was trying to start a faction and everything. Whatever, Adam Cole's back, that's awesome. Like I said, it was good, but the fact that most of what was good about this was stuff that happened after the match that had really nothing to do with the match, I can only give it a 3 out of 5. Then for the AEW International Championship, a 3-way. Konosuke Takeshita versus Ricochet versus champion Will Ospreay. This was awesome. Like, with these 3 competitors, you knew it was going to be chaotic, and it was. But again, these are 3 such experts at the chaos that it was going to be chaos you could follow. And it went until Will Ospreay was about to get the win, and Don Callis got involved and came in with the screwdriver, which Will took from him and looked like he was about to hit Don Callis with. But then out came Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay's best friend, who took the screwdriver and hit Will Ospreay with it, allowing Takeshita to come in and get the knee onto Will Ospreay, get the pin, the win, and we have a new AEW International Champion. And then after the match, just to make matters worse, best friend Kyle Fletcher did Tiger Driver 91 onto Will Ospreay. That dangerous move. So there was so much going on in this match, not just the wrestling story and the craziness, but the story afterward. Obviously, we're going to have a rivalry between Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. Obviously, Will Ospreay is going to try and get his title back. Obviously, it's Will Ospreay versus the Don Callis family. So, like I said, this is awesome. This is cool. This is what I look for all the time. And I'm also happy that Konosuke Takeshita is the new champion. Number one, I feel like the title's starting to hold Will Ospreay back. I think he needs to go to bigger and better. Not necessarily the World Championship yet, but maybe after this rivalry, maybe he starts feuding over the TNT title or something. But I think he had kind of taken the international title as far as it was going to go. And I think it was time for Konosuke to get a title. So I'm happy overall about this. What it has led to, what it's going to lead to. Honestly, I would say this was match of the night. 5 out of 5. Yeah! Then, as advertised, we got Swerve Strickland's return. Came out, basically said he's back, and then, of course, like we've been seeing, MVP and Shelton Benjamin came out to offer Swerve into their little fold, and Swerve said no. And then they said they're not asking, they're telling. So, obviously, this is going to lead to a feud, and they're bringing people in, and probably going to get Bobby Lashley. Then a 2 out of 3 falls match of Hologram versus Black Mortos. It was good. It was just pointless. Like, I really didn't understand why this was on the pay-per-view. Like, there's no real rivalry between these two. At least not AEW-wise. They've just had, conflict here and there. A little bit. Nothing really. And to result in a 2 out of 3 falls match, they were basically just building this up as like, yeah, they do this a lot in Mexico. Okay, well, we're not watching Lucha Libre, we're watching AEW. And it was just kind of standard how we figured it was going to go. Hologram got the first win, which told us that Black Mortos was going to get the second one, which he did. Which told us that Hologram was going to get the third one because they've been building up Hologram, which, don't get me wrong, I like the guy, but all he's done is come out and got some wins. If you really want to build him up, now get him in a rivalry of some sort. I mean, it was a good match, it was decent, so it wasn't like I was bored, but I wasn't that invested in it either, because there was no reason to be. So really, the best I could give it was a 3 out of 5. Yeah! Next match, Darby Allin versus Brody King. Darby Allin had done an open challenge just because basically he wanted to be on the pay-per-view, and Brody King answered it, and they've had a rivalry dating way back, and of course they were making a big deal out of Darby Allin has never pinned Brody King. I mean, it was brutal things like when Brody King put the steel steps on top of Darby Allin and then stepped on it. But then later, steel steps sitting out there in the middle of the floor, and Darby Allin pushing Brody King onto them, which was bad enough, and then doing a coffin drop onto it. Throwing Brody King back inside, getting up, and doing another coffin drop on Brody King, getting the pin and the win, meaning the first time he's ever pinned Brody King. Good. It was nice. Good match, but this isn't leading to anything. It's not building anything, and honestly, not the way I would have gone. I understand that they were making this like he finally gets to beat Brody King thing, but I'd like to see them push Brody King a bit. He's been doing nothing. And honestly, I kind of feel like they overpushed Darby Allin, but whatever. It was a good match. 3 out of 5. Yeah! Then for the AEW Tag Team Championships, the Young Bucks defend against Private Party. Of course, this going all the way back to 5 years ago when they had the inaugural tournament for the AEW Tag Team Championships. In the first round, the Young Bucks were eliminated by Private Party. Before the bell even rang, though, these guys fought outside on the stage, and we got some Hardy-esque type moves going on. And honestly, going into it, I didn't think Private Party was going to win, especially with them mentioning how they got that upset years ago. But throughout the match, I was like, actually, maybe. Which is always great when they can keep our attention, because if we don't, it could go either way. But after a third TK driver, the Young Bucks did get the pin and the win. They are still the AEW World Tag Team Champions. But now, I think this did boost Private Party up into being legit contenders. So maybe they'll get a rematch. Maybe just down the road they'll get another championship match. Who knows? Either way, I definitely like them getting more of the spotlight. So we'll see where this goes. 4 out of 5. Yay! Then for the Ring of Honor Championship, Chris Jericho challenged Mark Briscoe. Of course, it was a great match, and actually, even though it didn't have a whole lot of build-up, it got personal quick when Chris Jericho was basically taunting Mark Briscoe by saying he could never be Chris Jericho, maybe Jay could have. But obviously you can feel that energy, like if somebody said something like that about your dead brother who you were very close with, you'd want to beat the crap out of him, which Mark Briscoe did. And of course, Big Bill was there, so of course he kept getting involved. But Mark Briscoe's conglomeration partner, Orange Cassidy, came out and took care of that. So after more hard-hitting action, Mark Briscoe got the J Driller onto Chris Jericho, got the pin and the win, retaining his Ring of Honor Championship. Like I said, it was a great match. My only thing is, I'm not going to stop beating this drum. ROH needs to be separated from AEW. I'll get more into that later. But for right now, this match, easily got a 4 out of 5. Yeah! And then the main event for the AEW World Championship, Jon Moxley challenging Bryan Danielson. Of course, this being a heated rivalry. Going back to All Out when Jon Moxley put the bag over Bryan Danielson's face, and the overwhelming majority of fans, it turned out not to be just me, were saying too much. Either way, it culminates at WrestleDream. Obviously, this was going to be a hard-hitting match. It was going to be brutal, which we expected, and it went until Jon Moxley got the Gotch pile driver onto Bryan Danielson and then immediately choked him out. Bryan Danielson incapacitated, Jon Moxley wins, and he is the first ever 4-time AEW World Champion, which is good, how I felt it needed to go. We all know that Bryan Danielson was on borrowed time. We all know that Bryan Danielson is about to retire from full-time competition and that he needs neck surgery, so I didn't want him to keep coming out here and having these big, huge matches, because the more and more he has, and the more and more like, okay, you're going to get to a point where the surgery's not going to help you. But then afterwards, they went beating the crap out of Bryan Danielson, pulled out the bag, which immediately I was like, really, you're going to do this again? But out came Wheeler Yuta and Darby Allin. But it turned out because Wheeler Yuta was going to turn on Bryan Danielson. He took out Darby Allin, and he's the one that put the bag over Bryan Danielson's face. And they beat on him until several wrestlers kept coming out, couldn't get in there, and then eventually just all at once, almost the entire locker room came out. That's what finally got them off of Bryan Danielson, which means he's probably going to go take some time off. And this is what they keep saying. He's retiring from being a full-time competitor, so that means he's probably going to be a part-timer. He's probably going to come back, have the occasional match, and go away again. Which, fine, good, great. He's got a ton of injuries. I'm glad he got to end things on his own terms. This would have been a 5 if they didn't pull out the stupid plastic bag again. Like I said, the last time they did that, I know I did the review and I said I hated it, I didn't like it, it was too much. It turned out a lot of people agreed with me on that one. And I understand going too far, because sometimes it takes going too far to go, okay, reel it back. But instead they just did it again. That upset me a bit. If it wouldn't have been for them doing that, this would have been a 5. Would have been match of the night, but instead that bumped it back down to a 4. Yeah! So AEW WrestleDream overall, it's pretty good. I will say, even though they had plenty of time to build this up, they didn't do a lot of good build-up. Most of these rivalries came literally a week or two before the event. I feel that's kind of weird. Like, you had plenty of time. Build them up. For example, the Darby Allin-Brody King match, yeah, they've had that long rivalry going back, but they weren't really bothering each other for a long time, and then all of a sudden he's just like, hey, I want to be on the pay-per-view. Somebody come challenge me. The TNT Championship match. A couple weeks before, he just goes up and challenges him, and he says, okay. It's not really much of a rivalry. The Women's World Championship match with Willow Nightingale and Mariah May, it was built up a little bit, but not enough to where we really felt that Mariah May was any real danger of losing her championship. The ones they did take their time to build up, like the Will Ospreay, Konosuke Takeshita thing, they had been planting the seeds for that for a while. And when it came to fruition, it was awesome. And I like that this is going to keep going. The Young Bucks Private Party, they built up plenty. And of course, the world title was built up plenty. The Ring of Honor Championship match was only built up for a couple of weeks, but it got so personal so fast that we were like, okay, whatever, that's plenty. But going back to my issue with it, I really feel they need to stop with this putting Ring of Honor titles on AEW television all the time. Ring of Honor, this is not to insult it, but it really is clear that this is AEW's minor league. Kind of like the way that NXT is WWE's minor league. And in my opinion, instead of trying to fight that perception, embrace it, make that your developmental territory. But instead, they just keep mixing them in, and it seems like all these titles are so interchangeable that there's no roster division, whatever. I really feel like if a Ring of Honor wrestler is going to appear on an AEW event, it should be a big deal. I just really do feel that way. Like, they need to just keep it separate and only pull it out for like a big event like All In or something. The biggest disappointment of the night was how they ended the World Championship match. I honestly expected Moxley to win. They've got some storyline going on right now. He's being cryptic. We're going to find out what's going on with it. But he's the perfect heel champion right now. It's Perfect for anybody to want to challenge him and take that title off of him and be unable to because he's not only got the backup, but he's Jon Moxley. And of course, I think we all figured that Bryan Danielson's reign was not going to be a lengthy 1, 2, 3 year reign or anything like that. We figured it was only going to be a couple months. But why did they have to do the plastic bag thing again? Please don't bring the plastic bag out again. It's too much. Watching an attempted injury, fine, but I don't want to watch an attempted murder. So it just really hurt. It kind of made it end on a seriously note. On that note, before that, I was not going to give this a 5 because it only had one 5 match in it. The rest of the matches were just good. There was no bad matches, so I'll give it that. But that took away a lot of the momentum to where I don't even feel confident enough to give it a 4. I would give it a good, strong, solid, but only 3 out of 5. So there you have it. That's my wrestling review this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications for when I post the videos, and leave a comment I can respond to in my next comment corner. Tell me what you thought of AEW WrestleDream 2024. Love you guys.